Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Hit the Ropes radio show. It is episode number 357. Wow, 357 of the Hit the Ropes radio show. Stokes and Shane here with you on a beautiful Wednesday night, live on YouTube Live, talking all the happenings of the world of professional wrestling. Thank you so much for joining us, those that are listening live, those that will be jumping in the chat room. We appreciate the dialogue and the conversation as always. Shane, are you ready for another great show tonight, my brother?
I am ready.
Yes, indeed. Well, we got a lot to talk about, man. There is a lot going on in the world of wrestling. Of course, WWE just are coming off the heels of their Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. There's been reunions. Maybe we should have called this episode the reunion episode. There have been a couple of reunions in wrestling, people, friends getting back together, but best friends forever, I think, is a very fitting title for this episode. Very clever there, Shane. I can't take credit for that. But let's talk a little Hell in a Cell, man. Let's talk a little bit about the pay-per-view. Let me first state that I am thoroughly disappointed because it was in Detroit and I could not attend live. I want to shout Courtney out for being lame and having a job and not being able to go with me. So, but it was live in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena, the new arena. So that was another bummer. I wish I was able to attend, but unfortunately couldn't go. Did watch. Shane, give me some of your thoughts on Hell in a Cell overall. Match of the night, maybe big surprise of the night. I probably know the answer to both of those, but give me some of your overall thoughts on Hell in a Cell.
It was a stronger card than I thought it would be in terms of the wrestling quality. I didn't think that it would be as compelling as it was. You know, from the first match, they and the Usos, they put a precedent that everybody had to bring their A game, and it was a good show overall. You know, Shane McMahon and went darn near 40 minutes in their main event. You know, that's, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, wait, is something wrong with the internal clock? Because this is saying it's like 11:30 and this show is still going on. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
But that's a testament to how good the show was. That seemed like it was almost 4 hours long. When you talk about the main show to the end of it, it didn't seem like it was 4 hours long. I thought it was still somewhat before 11, and then I look at and the main event's going on and it's 11:40. That's a testament to how good the show is, that the time just went like that and I didn't notice it.
Yeah, man, I have to agree with you. What's funny about that last match in particular, like you said, it went some 39 minutes. What's funny about that is that I fell asleep. Not because the pay-per-view was boring, just because, heck, I was tired, man. I still got a baby at the crib. It's, so sleep is you take it when you can get it. So I fell asleep up, and it was like midway through the Shane KO match, and I looked at the time on my phone, and it was already like 11:20, and I'm like, well, what the heck? Like, what's going on? So yeah, it was kind of crazy because I guess now maybe because watching WWE events via WWE Network now, maybe they aren't. I remember WWE, I used to get mad because pay-per-views would end at like 10:45, and it's like, wait a minute, 3 hours. This is supposed to run to 11 o'clock. I want to get my, if it was WrestleMania, my $59.99 or however much it was, right. I wanted to get my money's worth. Now with the WWE Network for just $9.99, they're running overtime. So it was interesting, man. The way that all shook out. Obviously, if we're talking about I don't know what was the what was the match of the night. Was it Shane KO? Was it the Usos and the New Day? What do you think? I know it has to be between those two, right? I don't think there was another match that, though good, I don't think there was another match that measured up to what those two matches did.
Nah, it definitely comes down to those two matches, but I would go with the tag team match solely for all the competitors in there. You know, at the end of the day, the main event still included a McMahon who, though they've trained, to look somewhat competent in the ring, it does take a bit away from things because it's a McMahon. And I knew, Shane was gonna do his crazy punches.
You mean his fake punches? The punches that don't look real? Like
those rabbit punches?
I watched some old. I had to go back, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to say I had to go back and watch like some old Shane stuff, like when he wrestled Kurt Angle at King of the Ring, all the matches that he had back in the Attitude Era, and he knew how to punch. Then when did he forget how to? When did he forget how to punch?
When he went over to China, I guess.
But I digress. Go ahead, man.
So, the fact that there was a McMahon in the match took a little bit away from it, and I had a feeling of how the match was going to play out. I was reading, I check out the different dirt sheets and all of that stuff, and I remember reading an article where somebody pretty much said exactly what the WWE did. Sami Zayn would come out and make the save. We all knew Shane was going to do something crazy off the top of the cage. And we knew that was going to happen.
Well, so, I wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sure.
And Shane McMahon, this guy loves to jump off things. He is the Jeff Hardy of the McMahon family.
Yeah, I knew he was going to do like a big spot. I just didn't think it was going to be, I'm going to jump off the top of the cell, a la my match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I didn't think it was going to be that big, but it was. I was surprised to see it. I knew it was going to be a big spot, just wasn't expecting him off the top of the cage.
So that's the only reason I didn't give it the main the match of the night, just because I kind of knew the Sami Zayn thing was coming, and the fact that Shane McMahon, as decent as he is in the ring, he was still involved in the match. But what about you?
You know what? I would have to, considering that I fell asleep on like 10 minutes of 15 minutes of the match, I'm going to have to vote for, I did go back and watch it though, but I'll have to vote for the Usos and the New Day. It was a great match, man. It was a great way to open the show. I really think that at first I was upset that match was the first match. Then I was like, okay, I understand kind of why they did that, because it really helped build the steam of the pay-per-view, if you will. It like got things moving, got things charged up, and the crowd was great, throughout the night. Shout out to Detroit. The crowd was great throughout the night, and that match kind of was the catalyst for all that. I think that match was good. The only thing to me that was disappointing was that Kofi Kingston had no involvement in the match whatsoever. I thought there would be some sneaky way that he would try to interject himself into the match, get in the cell. I didn't know how they were going to pull it off, but I thought they would go that route. But for him to stand outside of the cage the whole match and watch his boys lose, that part was kind of lame. But other than that, the match was great. Definitely the Usos and the New Day are my early favorite for the ropey for feud of the year. I'm just throwing it out there. They're my early favorite. It was a great match. It was a good match. It was a great culmination, closing of their feud, which has been going on for a while. It was good. And I was happy with it. I just wasn't happy with Kofi's lack of involvement in the match.
And you bring that up, and just to jump forward to Tuesday night a little bit, I love the fact that it is a culmination. It was a culmination of their feud, and now it's wrapped up because we saw them in the ring, where they pretty much had a truce oos or an oos truce because it kind of got a little Dr. Seuss like in the I feel like I'm Eminem right now with these bars. Shout out to Eminem. Shout out to Detroit.
Truce. Throwing the
you know,
deuce. Yeah, go ahead. All you gotta do is
so
start talking about Trump, man. You'll be in there.
I love the fact that they kind of wrapped that up. So now we could see a new tag team enter the mix to face the tag team champions who are currently the Usos. I'm kind of curious to see what the New Day does from this point on, but I like the fact that we got it was wrapped up in a nice little bow, and it's not like those times where we hear last match between these two guys and then the next night they're fighting again.
Yeah, I have a feeling though. WWE is notorious for saying this is the last time that you'll see these two people matched up. And what do we see 3 or 4 months later? They're matched up again. They did it with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They've done it with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. They did it with Randy Orton and John Cena, seemingly ad nauseum back in the day. So we're going to see New Day and the Usos again. I mean, as long as they both stay tag teams, it's kind of unavoidable. But hopefully for the near future, the Usos move on, the New Day move on. I know there was some rumblings and talk about the New Day possibly splitting, going their separate ways. I don't know. I think that talk might be premature because they just recently came to SmackDown, so they maybe still have a few things to. Well, I don't know. Maybe they don't have much else to accomplish as a tag team. Maybe they do split up, but they're so good together, man, that I don't know that you want to break that up. I don't think they're stale yet. I think they're still over. I don't think the fans are quite tired of them yet where you would be forced to kind of split them. So we'll see what happens. It looks like the Usos are moving on to Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable. They're the new number 1 contenders. If you saw SmackDown, they had a pre-show match at Hell in a Cell against the Hype Bros. Looks like the Hype Bros are finished. They're done, right? Looks like they are.
I mean, did the implosion finally happen?
I guess not officially. Not the official blow up, but I think it's coming. I don't know how many people care, but I think it's coming. But circling back to Hell in a Cell before we move on to and talk a little. Obviously, we're going to talk some Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens because I got a few opinions on that, as do you, of course. Was there any match on the card outside of the 2 bookend matches that surprised you as far as the quality of the match, or maybe the opposite that surprised you and turned out to be a sucky match? Because I have one, but I want to hear your thoughts.
The Randy Orton Rusev match, though Rusev lost again, and every time Rusev loses, it was a good match. It was a good match. I'm bored of Randy Orton, and I want more for Rusev, but the match was good. And then the triple threat match with Corbin was good for Corbin being involved. It was good. But, everything else between those 2 big matches that started and ended the show, they were good to slightly below good, but it wasn't terrible.
Right.
I
agree. No. I was gonna say, generally, I am bored out of my mind anytime Randy Orton comes to the ring. You actually stole my thunder there. That was my match too. That I thought was like, oh God, here we go again. But actually was solid. Randy Orton and Rusev gave us a solid match. I remember my exact words after the match ended was like, wow, I actually watched an entire Randy Orton match. I couldn't remember the last time I actually had watched one of his matches in its entirety. And that was a good match. I thought Charlotte and Natalya was was decent. I didn't think it was terrible. I thought that was solid. And you're right, with Boring Corbin in the triple threat match, the outcome was expected. I kind of figured he was going to go over and become United States champ. I think maybe it's time for AJ, or your hope, I know, is for AJ to get back in that main event scene, maybe become Nakamura's next challenger. So we'll see what happens with that. But it looks like maybe AJ is going down a road where him and Shane are going to feud with KO and Sami Zayn. We'll see. But I'm kind of jumping ahead. But Hell in a Cell overall was decent. Obviously, the big, I guess, takeaway from the show, if you will, is that Sami Zayn turns heel. We get the Sami Zayn heel turn. He saves his best buddy, his best friend Kevin Owens from sure destruction from Shane McMahon. And what are your thoughts, man? Sami Zayn as a heel. Then he gave some cheesy explanation on SmackDown Tuesday about how, you know, Shane was supposed to give him this opportunity and all he's done his whole career is be mediocre, and Kevin Owens opened his eyes by powerbombing him on an apron, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Sami Zayn as a heel, are you for it? Are you against it? How do you feel about it?
I'm all for Sami getting a chance to stay on TV, to be relevant, and to have some kind of character other than the underdog from the indie circuit or whatever they would title him as. I'm fine with him having this little
or something like that, right?
The underdog from the underground, yeah, something like that. I'm happy for him to have this moment, but I will say, though, the logic that he spouted last night was good logic, that segment ran entirely too long. My wife was laying in, we were watching it in bed, and I actually like dozed off a little bit, and it was still going on. And she, I woke back up, and he's still talking, and Kevin is talking, and she's like, okay, so he's gonna hit him now. One of them's gonna hit him. She doesn't watch wrestling, but she's like, all this talking, she's like, one of them is gonna hit each other, right? She's like, this ain't wrestling, this is talkling, and this is chatling. This ain't wrestling. So when they finished and the segment wrapped and there was no fight, she's like, really? I stayed up for that? You know what? So, yeah, I like the logic. I think it will be good for Sami, but I was not entirely thrilled with the entirety of that segment. But I will say, I think this pairing, if they stay paired, will be better for Kevin Owens than Owens pairing with Jericho, because Jericho and his list kind of surpassed Owens in popularity. I think Owens will fare better as being A, while Sami Zayn will be B if they were to stay paired.
That's an interesting point of view. That's actually a great point. I have a problem with the Sami Zayn. Well, I can't even say his name. I have a problem with the Sami Zayn heel turn, and here's my issue with it. And I guess he kind of explained it on SmackDown and thanked Kevin Owens. But my whole thing is, to me, it just looks like if you can't beat him, join him kind of thing. And I mean, I guess that's probably what they were going with. Sami Zayn has been getting his behind kicked by Kevin Owens for the better part of, I don't know, since Kevin Owens came into WWE all the way back at NXT. He's been getting his butt kicked consistently for like the last 2 or 3 years. Then all of a sudden he's going to say, you know what? This guy's been beating me up. I'm just going to go ahead and pair with him and save him because he's my brother. It just didn't sit well with me. I'm fine with the Sami Zayn heel turn overall. I think it will benefit and impact his career. Being alongside Kevin Owens will catapult him probably. But I just don't like the whole, because of the past history with him and Kevin Owens, it just seems like it makes Sami Zayn look kind of weak, in my opinion.
I mean, Sammy's beatings from at the hands of everybody. This is Sami Zayn. He's also lost to Aiden English. I think Sammy's looked weak any darn way.
Yeah,
So
true. All right, I guess so, but I was like, hopefully they change his music too, because he's not going to be a believable heel coming out to that old hokey music that he comes out to. But I guess they could play on that too. I mean, he could gotta be skipping out and still like this happy-go-lucky guy, but then the crowd just like hates
him. Yeah, I don't know if he'll still be doing his crazy dancing and all of that.
Yeah. Because I mean, he still came down to the ring and was doing a little bit of that on Tuesday, but I know he kind of had to play on just turning heel. He had to play on that still a little bit. So
yeah, I think as this goes on, his character will become a little more hardened, and he'll be a little bit more resistant to doing the crowd pleasing stuff. So I think we'll see that as this continues.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so since the pay-per-view was the SmackDown's only pay-per-view, so just to jump past Monday night to straight to Tuesday night with SmackDown, we saw Shinsuke Nakamura lose to Jinder Mahal again for the world title. There was no interaction between him and Jinder, so it seems like that feud is now completely done.
Thank God.
What do you think is next for Shinsuke? I think you kind of breezed over it a little bit a few moments ago, but what do you think is next for him? Because he's still loved by the crowd. If you heard Tuesday night's entrance, he's still loved by the crowd.
Yeah, that's a good question. Where does he go next? Does he go because I guess it all depends on where Jinder goes next. Maybe I think Jinder Mahal is probably either going to go AJ Styles or Bobby Roode. I kind of see one of those two. I know Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler are still kind of going through their thing, but I think that's going to end on SmackDown next week, hopefully. I don't know what the heck they're doing with Dolph Ziggler, but whatever. So I think Jinder is probably going to go Roode or AJ, and I'm leaning more towards Roode because I think AJ and Shane are going to wrestle, or some team including AJ and Shane are going to wrestle KO and Sami Zayn at Survivor Series. I'm kind of jumping ahead, just kind of forecasting. So for Nakamura, maybe Rusev? Has he feuded with Rusev yet? Maybe Rusev. If Rusev and Orton are wrapped up, maybe a guy like maybe Aiden English gets some shine and gets some spotlight, and he gets in a feud with Nakamura. Outside of that, I really can't think because they don't. He already feuded with Baron Corbin, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yes. I mean, I guess he could in theory he could get back in the U.S. title mix, but I think maybe Ty Dillinger gets a shot or two without AJ Styles being incorporated in that. So I guess he could go after the U.S. title with Baron Corbin. That may be the logical thing. Although they already touched on that feud. Didn't they wrestle? Did they had a match? What? It was at a pay-per-view. It was after Mania.
Yeah, they had their feud for about 2-3 months.
Okay.
Shinsuke came up. He had his feud with Dolph because everybody feuds with Dolph when they first come up.
Right.
And then he had Baron Corbin, and then he had some matches in between with like John Cena and Randy Orton, and he's been with Jinder. So at this point, It's kind of hard to tell. I don't think anybody truly wants to see him and Baron go at it again because their first go around wasn't that hot. But since Baron has a title, and obviously they're not giving him the world title right now, it could make some sense that we revisit Baron versus Shinsuke, even if it's for like a one-off. But I think Shinsuke is going to need some wins. They gave him one last night, so maybe he does go up against Aiden English and have like a short little feud just so that he can pick up some wins.
Yeah, who did he wrestle last night?
He and Randy teamed up against Rusev.
Oh, that's right, against Rusev and Aiden English. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the chat room is not happy with how the WWE's booking Sami Zayn. Hot Dog even says Sami should go back to New Japan. So Hot Dog is all for
Sami or Nakamura?
Not Sami, sorry, Shinsuke.
Okay.
Sorry. Hot Dog is all for Shinsuke running back to New Japan. So Hot Dog is for people walking out, a la, another WWE star that we're going to shortly talk about, possibly walking out on the company.
Oh. And they're getting on me in the chat room. Daniel Price is getting on me. Shout out to Daniel, because I'm actually not a Nakamura fan, and I think it's because of the way WWE has kind of booked him and pushed him. I just don't get it, man. I'm sorry. Like the whole gimmick, I know he's like eccentric and weird and all of that, but it just doesn't resonate with me. I mean, he can wrestle, don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of blah. I'm not a huge fan. So I know I'm in the minority big time with that take, but and I know tend to be negative, as people have told me in the past, but I'm sorry. I'm not a big Nakamura guy. So the fact that he's not WWE champion, although Jinder is, I want most people to beat Jinder. I actually was rooting for Jinder Sunday night. I was hoping Nakamura didn't go over, and my prayers were answered.
Gender equality, you coming over?
No. I'm please God, let the next guy beat him, whoever it is. It's time for him to drop the title. It's time for him to drop the belt.
They're going to India. He can't drop the title. They're going to India.
Yeah. When he comes home, as soon as he touches down on U.S. soil, get a belt to somebody else.
There you go. 24/7 rule, like the hardcore title. He hits the tarmac. And AJ attacks him.
I don't even care if it's what was the little Holly? What was the little small Holly? It was Bob Holly, and there was a little cousin name.
Crash.
I'll Crash Holly come right on the tarmac and just beat him up. Invoke the 24/7 rule.
If my memory serves me correct, I believe Crash is dead.
Oh, is he? Seriously? Oh, I gotta Google that, man. Are you serious? Did he pass away? Now I feel really bad for saying that. Did he really die? Wow. All right, go ahead to your next point while I look up Crash Holly's. He did die.
Yep, he did.
He died in 2003. Where the heck have I been? That was 14 years ago.
I don't know, sir. But
gosh. Man. I mean, suicide by drug overdose.
I mean, if Crash was to come back and win the title, that would make for interesting television. Yeah, it would be better than it would be better than the Bray Wyatt stuff.
Be like his Force Ghost or something coming back. I'm sorry. I've been engulfed with Last Jedi trailers, man. So yeah. Wow, I did not know that. But yeah, okay. Wow. Rest in peace, Crash Holly, man. I didn't know. I really didn't.
Okay. Well, SmackDown, even though it was the fallout of Hell in the Cell, other than the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn reveal, we had a good match between Baron and AJ to, I guess, complete that feud. And as you mentioned earlier, Shelton and Chad Gable will be the next challengers for the Usos. So let's switch away from SmackDown. Let's rewind to Monday night. And we have the big news. The Shield is now back. We knew it was coming, but now it's official. They're back. How do you feel?
Wait a minute. Before I give you my thoughts, Crash Holly was a 22-time hardcore champion. How is that possible? Because of the 24/7 rule.
Yes.
22-time hardcore champion. That has to be like a record or something. But Shield reunion, I'm all for that. I'm here for that every single day of the week. The crowd was going insane. I was marking out. I'm like, oh, the only thing, I think you brought it up, we were chatting all about it, the HTR crew in our little chat. You were mad because they all came out to their own theme music instead of coming out like to the Shield music together. Had they come through the crowd, they probably are saving that for TLC, but had they come through the crowd, people would have probably lost it. But the reunion is great. I love the fact that not only did they wreck The Miz, Sheamus, and Cesaro, but then later on in the show they came out and wrecked Braun. I really like that because they all had, a bone to pick with Braun, so to speak. Braun wrecked Ambrose and Rollins the week before. Braun and Reign have a long history, so that was sweet. I like the way they did that. It was all good for me, and I'm looking forward. I know it's going to be short-lived. It probably won't last long, but for as long as it lasts, I'm really excited to see the Shield back together.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my guns with I think it would have been so much better if the first time they were back together that we heard the Sierra Hotel, India, if that was heard, I think it would have been that much better. It was a great reaction. Not going to deny that. It was a great reaction. The crowd loved it, even though they knew it was coming. But if they were coming out of the crowd and you heard the Shield's actual song the first time, by the time we get to the pay-per-view, we've done seen them, back together. We've done seen them wreck people. I just think that first time back is just like when a star has been gone for a while and they show up at the Royal Rumble and their music hits and everybody goes crazy. If the Miz was out there with Sheamus and Cesaro and he's talking his mess, and then all of a sudden you hear the Shield's music, I think that would have been completely bonkers.
Yeah. Well, you heard the Shield's music. I mean, Roman Reigns still uses it, just without the Sierra Hotel, that part. But
you don't know your military.
Clearly, I don't know how to spell Shield. I just wasn't going to embarrass myself on the show. But no, I'm kidding. Kind of. But yeah, so I agree with you. They probably could have made it a little more. I mean, they still got a huge pop regardless. Even Roman, and I know some of the guys in the chat room are alluding to maybe this leads to some type of turn for Roman where he turns heel and, basically does, Rollins and Ambrose like Rollins did Ambrose and Reigns back in the day. But I think Vince did this for the opposite reason. He wanted Roman Reigns to start feeling good about himself and finally have some people cheering him. So they were like, you know what? The only way we're going to get that to happen is to bring the Shield back together. That's the only way people are going to actually start cheering Roman Reigns. Because every time he beat on his chest, every time he ooh-ah'd and all of that stuff, the crowd was eating it up.
That is true.
I don't even remember anything else from Raw, man. I watched the whole show. All I remember is the Shield reunion. That was probably the highlight. Oh, and Enzo losing, but other than that.
Well,
Although I'm not a fan of Enzo losing. But anyway, I don't want to jump ahead to anything. But the Shield was dope. I was all for it, man.
so they're back together. You mentioned the guys that they attacked. So now this leads to a 3-on-4 handicap match where, because the Shield stated that they could beat X amount of guys, The Miz went to Kurt Angle and made mention that they have a fourth guy. So that fourth guy being Braun Strowman. What are you feeling with this 3-on-4? Do you think it stays as 3-on-4? Do you think perhaps The Miz goes and say, you know what? Well, four is not enough. Let's get 6. Let's add Axel and Bo Dallas.
That could happen. That could happen. I mean, they probably will still be involved one way or the other, whether they're actually in the match or they're just, the Miz's flunkies on the outside of the ring during the match. So they could do it either way. They don't necessarily have to add them to the match for them to have impact or involvement in the match. So that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Kind of stack the deck against the Shield and let them beat 6 guys to show that they are the biggest and baddest, entity to ever step foot in the WWE. I guess they could do that. But for right now, my vote is leaning towards the 4-on-3 with Braun, Cesaro, Sheamus, and Miz. I guess they had to. I was like, why not save this for Survivor Series? But I guess they could still feed on that and do it again next month at Survivor Series. Maybe do the teams at that point, but. I think they're gonna stick with the 4 guys, and it's gonna be the 4-on-3. I mean, Braun counts for like 3 dudes by himself.
All right. Daniel Price does not like you. I'm just reading.
What did I say? Hold on.
Because you made the mention of Enzo. And you're not a fan of Enzo losing. He's wanting to replace you with Courtney.
Oh my God! I have hit rock bottom when anybody wants to replace me with Courtney. I have hit rock bottom. But hey, man, I tend to be a supporter of Enzo's move to 205 Live and the decision to put the belt on him. That's it. I think from a marketability standpoint, it was a smart decision, and I think taking the belt off him so soon was a bad decision. That's it. I'm not an Enzo fan. I'm thinking more. So I'm thinking about what's best for business, man.
All right, Triple H's cousin.
So my decision to Triple S.
to stay with the Enzo, because that was in the main event, so obviously the WWE wanted it to be a thing to discuss. Enzo loses the title to the newly signed cruiserweight Kalisto. You just said that you're not a fan of him losing because of what he's brought to 205 Live. Well, there's the news that, Kalisto wasn't going to be the guy that wrestled Enzo so soon, but apparently Neville, the former king of the cruiserweights, walked out of the company.
Yeah.
What do you think if these rumors are in fact legit? What do you think about Neville walking out?
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think of it. I mean, I'm guessing, was he disenfranchised? Was he upset because, the rumblings are that he was supposed to drop the belt, not drop the belt, but lose another match to Enzo. So was he mad about that? And that's why he left? I guess, I don't know what his bone to pick was with WWE in this regard. I mean, clearly, he was the cruiserweight champ for a long time. He beat everybody. Yeah, surely he didn't have a problem with somebody finally beating him after him going over month after month after month. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to think of it because we don't have all the details. But I mean, just on the surface, it kind of looks, looks kind of like a punk move by Neville.
You think it's a punk move? Well, um, I don't know, because if you're unhappy with a job, if you're unhappy with your job, don't you like go find another job?
Well,
Sir,
sure, but I mean, we're talking about it's a different set of circumstances. I mean, we're talking about contracts and all types of stuff in this case. I mean, WWE is not an at-will employer. Like, you can't just be like, "Oh, I'm out."
This is, you're frustrated because you've been taking these losses to Enzo Amore. I would be frustrated too if I'm losing to Enzo. I'd be frustrated if I got to work with Enzo. I could see the frustration and being frustrated that you're losing so often, but at the end of the day, this is still a wrestling career. It's a pro wrestling deal. You could lose to Enzo 5 times in 5 nights. You could be in a title match for something else and win it. We saw Jinder Mahal go from obscurity to WWE champion.
I still can't believe that, but yeah.
So, you can be frustrated about losing repeatedly. But I don't think that it was going to be so damning because I think it's something that could be easily fixed. It's not like you were losing repeatedly in the world title picture. You were on 205 Live, but you were still the biggest fish in that pond. Enzo coming over there, he was just this hype, but you are still the biggest fish in that pond. Even Kalisto signing, Neville was still the biggest fish in that pond. I think this was just a very rash decision. And if he's happy, then I'm all for him being happy. But I don't know if this is going to, be something where he possibly can return if he changes his mind down the line, because we've seen Stone Cold, walked out on a Raw and all of that, but Neville's no Stone Cold. Do you see Neville possibly coming back?
Wait, I was about to say, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Neville, like
right.
They're not comparable. But I mean, I get the point you're trying to make, but yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin is probably gonna get some calls from Vince, like, "Hey man, we need you back. What are you doing? Let's work this out." Neville, Triple H might call him. Vince ain't calling him. Triple H might call him and say, "Hey, dude, because he's one of his NXT guys, so he might call him and be like, 'Hey, man, what are you doing? What's going on? Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's chop it up.'" I just feel like this, man. If I understand people are annoyed, people can't stand Enzo, just from what we've heard, and read. I get that. But my thing is, Neville was like the cruiserweight champ. Like, TJ Perkins was the champ for like a cup of coffee once when 205 Live started. But after that, it was all Neville. He lost the belt to Tozawa for like a day, like 2 days. And he was back with the belt until he finally lost it to Enzo. It's just like, how wrestling goes if you've been in the business for any amount of time. Like, you're hot, you have your time, then it's somebody else's time, and you gotta, do the honors for that guy. Granted, this guy is, probably the biggest DB walking planet Earth, but you got to do what you got to do, and I think like I said, without knowing all of the circumstances, our assumption is Neville probably didn't like the fact that he had to lose to Enzo again. But it could be something else. But just if it's based off that fact, I don't know if I rock with that move. Especially when you've been beating everybody for the better part of a year.
I don't see why he would be enough to walk away, because like you said, he's beaten all of them. He said that, more than once, that that's why he's the king of the cruiserweights, because he's beaten all of them. Yeah. Enzo didn't beat any of them, but Enzo would come out. Well, he might have beaten one or two by cheating, but he was coming out and he's just talking all this mess like, he hates this one, you suck, and blah, 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 blah. At least Neville, you actually beat all of them. So, if you were to take a couple L's right now, you just had a bad stretch. But they could have used Neville in other ways, because we always see the cruiserweights on Raw. Neville could have slowly transitioned into, I've been the king of the cruiserweights. I've conquered this land. I'm going to now conquer another land. And they could slowly transition him into working with some of the regular Raw guys.
Yeah, that could have been something. Yeah, that could have been a trajectory he was on for sure. He's definitely got the in-ring ability. He was probably the only guy besides Enzo that had any type of, character or charisma on 205 Live. So, he definitely, and maybe his gripe too, because there was some talk about turning him face. Maybe his gripe was that he didn't want to turn face. Maybe he wanted to stay a heel. And I mean, he is a seemingly a natural heel. He does a great job in that character. That's kind of what has catapulted him to the level of success that he's had. So maybe that was an issue. But yeah, you could have definitely saw him, competing on Raw in non-205 Live matches or non-cruiserweight matches. But I think he'll likely be back, man. I don't think this is a permanent thing. I don't think he's I don't think this is a CM Punk situation. I think Neville will be back.
Well, talking about somebody else who's possibly gone, I mentioned this to you guys in our little production meetings, but possibly Jimmy Jacobs is also gone from the WWE. Now, for those who don't know who Jimmy Jacobs is, because Courtney McIntosh, who is, this great person according to Daniel Price, and according to the New Japan people, Courtney McIntosh is this great individual. He didn't know who Jimmy Jacobs was. Jimmy Jacobs, a former ROH talent, was one of my favorite ROH guys for years. And now he's with the WWE Creative, or at least he was with WWE Creative. Chris Jericho even credited him for being the guy who gave the idea of the list. But apparently the whole invasion angle by the Bullet Club did Jimmy Jacobs in, because he appeared in a photo with the Bullet Club, and apparently that was the last straw, and he was apparently fired, or at least that's what they're saying.
Wow, because he appeared with the Bullet Club.
I from what I'm reading, like, he was already on thin ice. That was possibly the last straw. The fact that who was in that picture, and I think he's the one that posted that picture on his Instagram. I don't know. Last I saw, it was still rumors, but if he was the guy behind the list, which we saw what happened with the list, there's no telling what other good ideas he might have been a part of. but that would be kind of unfortunate if he's been one of those guys who, was able to contribute some good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, WWE
we'll
is.
follow that.
Yeah, they're usually. I don't know. Vince is usually I mean, he holds grudges, but he's usually, you know, uh, willing to let bygones be bygones if it makes business sense. And if Jimmy Jacobs was, you know, bringing good ideas to the table, and I mean, what better idea was it in 2016 outside of the list and even parts of this year? So, if he was bringing good ideas to the table, Vince, knowing his character, he usually would keep a guy like that on board. But I guess maybe with all the heat that the young bucks in the WWE have right now, being pictured with them was probably not a good look.
Definitely. What do you think about the hubbub about Conor McGregor being close to signing with the WWE?
Well, I'm not surprised. Conor is kind of in limbo right now after getting his butt whooped by Floyd Mayweather, which I never really formally got to tease Darius Brown about. He's not here, so I won't do it right now. But he for some reason thought Conor McGregor was going to beat Floyd Mayweather, but so he's kind of in limbo right now. He doesn't know what he wants to do as far as fighting goes. Why not make a deal for WrestleMania? It'll be interesting to see what role he plays, who he wrestles, if he wrestles. But I mean, it makes, from a business and money-making standpoint, it makes perfect sense for all parties involved. I'm not a McGregor fan, but it's a good move.
Yep. I'm all for it. Even though he lost, he can still bring some eyeballs to the WWE and their network, or wherever you still watch the WWE pay-per-views if you don't pay $9.99. So we're possibly going to see Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, possibly heading to the WWE as well.
Already got Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, so we're probably going to get a little bit more shoot fighting in that squared circle. With these MMA folks coming over. But let's just to wrap up the show. I want to touch on one last thing. So we're not just talking about the WWE. I know you really, really plan on utilizing this. But
good night, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
For those who do not know, the time is now. And that time is for the TNA network. They have released their own global wrestling network for $7.99. You can have TNA in the palm of your hands. I know you want that.
I was going to say it's not the TNA network, but you corrected yourself. Yes, the Global Wrestling Network.
I know you want that.
No, actually, I don't. I don't. I don't even think I
Why
have.
not?
Well, for one, I've never been the biggest TNA fan. Obviously, I've kept tabs. We've watched for the sake of this show. We actually had a great relationship with TNA. TNA showed us a lot of love back in our first run, our first Hit the Ropes run, shows and interviews. And I mean, heck, we got Booker T. We had the Motor City Machine Guns. We had Mickie James back when she was on that run. We had Pope, D'Angelo De Niro. Was it D'Angelo De Niro? Yeah, D'Angelo De Niro. Did we interview we had Matt Hardy. That was a huge show for us. The Matt Hardy show was huge for us.
We've had Petey Williams. We've had the Machine Guns.
Yeah. TNA was WWE didn't give us anybody. TNA always was giving us somebody. Darius had was shaking hands and kissing babies somewhere and got us an in with a TNA exec back when we were doing a lot of interviews. But even with all of that, I say all that to say, even with all of that, we tried, man. Go back and listen to our old HTR shows. We tried really hard to do. I remember we would do shows where we would intentionally try to be complimentary of TNA throughout the show and not bash the product. But I'm just not personally interested. I mean, TNA, They did some good things over the years. They had some good wrestlers, the AJ Styles, the Samoa Joes, the X division was excellent. That was great. They've had some good women. There was a time where we talked about how TNA's women's division was far and away better than WWE's. There was a time where their women's division was the best around. So, they've done some good things. I just don't know that if I would be willing to pay $7.99 a month for their video library.
Especially since you can get that same video library on YouTube or Dailymotion or wherever else you get your videos. No, I don't know if this is going to be profitable, because from all reports, we always hear that this company is always hemorrhaging money. Their talent has always cried about not getting paid on time or getting paid fully. So for them to put this money into this network, I'm not certain how profitable it would be. But
they have no investors now, so that may give them a little more bread.
Why the hell do people keep investing in this company?
I'm trying to start a business right now, and I need somebody to invest in that.
You need to go talk to Panda or Anthem. Yeah. Clearly,
Dixie Carter, give me a call. I got a picture with her. I'm like, hey, you remember me? I should email her the picture that her and I took at Slammiversary many moons ago. Like, hey, you remember me? Invest in my company.
I listen. I love many of the talent over there, but I just don't know how profitable this is going to be. When you only have about 200,000 people to 300,000 people watching your show weekly in the WWE. I guess maybe this is going to be a bigger thing overseas, but even their numbers overseas isn't doing as well as it used to. So I don't know how profitable this is going to be. But, I'm just going to say that I'm not going to be getting the network. I don't even have the WWE network. I'm not willing to pay $9.99 for that. And they're going to have original content. I don't know. I don't even know if there's going to be original content on this GWN. So no, I'm not spending my $7.99. But if there's somebody out there who does get the Global Wrestling Network, please Twitter, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on Facebook at Hit the Ropes. Let us know how you're enjoying it, and if you plan on keeping it for an extended period of time, please let us know, because I'm interested. I'm really interested on what they have to offer and if it's worth the money. I don't have anything else to say when it comes to
I don't either. You start talking Impact Wrestling, I start drawing blanks. So,
well, there you go. But I just wanted to see, for those who listen, we sometimes talk New Japan and we sometimes talk Impact Wrestling.
Courtney talks New Japan.
Yes, and then we all draw blanks there. So, so with that, any final words, Mr. Stokes?
I know, man. Thanks everybody so much for listening. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Always a fun conversation with those guys. Hot Dog, Daniel, Got a couple new guys in the chat room as well. Thanks to those that jumped in. And see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the show. Be sure to check out Hit the Ropes on all of our platforms, Facebook, Twitter. Be sure to check out the VC.com, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just show the crew some love. We appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Are we off air?
Oh, no, we're not off air. Oh, everybody, I guess that was my cue. My bad. Everybody have a great night. Until next week, we'll see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.